Okay, so figured since my last video was about the fast pump on the bench that I would take a video about the fast pump on my second gen Dodge. I've had, oh, and I'm just holding the camera so I can go around and show you the different shit on the pickup. So, you know, the cinematography, if you will, on it is going to be kind of fucked. But I've had this on, well, I've had a fast pump on my pickup here for probably 5 years or something like that. My first one failed. The motor smoked itself, let the magic smoke out about 2 years ago, something like that. Go back and watch my other video, I guess, if you want to hear more about that. But so on the second gen Dodges, when you turn the key to the on position, the fuel pump will come on for a brief second, as you can hear, and then if you bump the starter, the fuel pump will run for about 30 seconds or so. And yeah, I'm not gonna show my gauges or nothing like that because I guess it doesn't matter. But however long that was there is how long the fuel pump will run for when you bump the starter. Do I have my barrel handy? No. I have gotten rid of the underbody fuel tank on this pickup. So, like, here is the fuel filler in the side of the body here, and you can see straight through it to there is my leaf spring and the ground right there. So I no longer fill fuel from there. I am keeping that on the truck for the moment because just for shits and giggles, I always kind of wanted to put water methanol in this thing. And I thought it would be really funny to hook my fuel filler up to the water methanol tank and just to see what people's reaction would be, you know, to be fucking pouring water methanol in what looks to be the fuel filler cap. I just think that'd be funny. But so I have a 100-gallon fuel tank in the bed of the pickup, and I've got on this one here a barrel spout, and it's actually a really kick-ass old school barrel spout that I, believe it or not, found at a fucking antique store for, I think I paid like $10 for it or something like that. But it's really cool, I think, because it just slides open and shut like that. And so I've got that on that side. And then on the other side here, I have a at-a-glance fuel gauge. So hopefully you can read that there and everything. And unfortunately, that's my only fuel gauge on the tank at the moment. My fuel gauge on the dash does not work because I haven't put a sending unit in here. And then it's important that on a fuel tank that you have a cap like this one here, because this will pressure relieve. So hopefully you can see there's a little bit of play right there with a spring. So if the tank builds pressure, this will open up, and sometimes if you're standing next to the tank, you can actually hear kind of like thunk kind of deal. And then it's got this portion of it here. Basically, it's just like a radiator cap is what it is, but for much, much lower pressure. And then this one here will let air into the tank. So say if you're pumping fuel from the tank into something else, you obviously don't want to create a low pressure in the tank because you wouldn't be able to pump fuel very well like that. And so it's important to have some way of venting the tank. In my case, I have that cap on the other side because this one here is actually airtight, this barrel spout. I forget if you could hear any air rushing when I opened it this time, but oftentimes when I go to open this thing, you'll hear a whoosh of air when you open it. And then, of course, I've got the Fill Right fuel pump on here for transferring fuel onto other shit. The standpipe on this one here is cut off about, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches or something from the bottom of the fuel tank. And the reason that I did that is because I don't want this transfer pump to be able to empty this fuel tank, because this is the only fuel tank that I have on this pickup, which I really like because you only have one tank to worry about. And, you know, the factory tank on these second gen Dodges is like 32 gallons or something. Now I've got 100 gallon. But so enough rambling on about that portion of it. Like I said, I was going to talk about the FASS pump, and then, you know, I squirreled out on all this other shit. But so what I did was I welded in 2 bungs to the side of the fuel tank here. And yes, I know that they are different, but that was what I had at the time when I put this all together. And you know what they say, there's nothing more nothing more permanent than a temporary solution that works. And this works, so I haven't changed yet. And so the front one here, if I remember right, is the fuel return from the engine, and this one here is the fuel return from the FASS pump. And so currently here we are on the driver's side of the pickup, and so both of my return lines from the FASS pump are on the driver's side, and then the fuel to the FASS pump is on the passenger side of this fuel tank, and there's a bulkhead in between, or like running down, there's a lengthwise bulkhead in the fuel tank running down the center of it. And so that way I return fuel on one side of the tank and I pick up fuel from the other side of the tank, and then that way I have, you know, in my mind, way less chance of getting entrained air in the fuel. So that's up top, transfer pump and that sort of deal, and the returns there. And we'll go underneath. And so, like I was saying, there's my factory fuel filler. I've just left it in place because, you know, I was going to do something with that at one point. And where the fuel tank would normally go, I actually have a transmission cooler, but you can see, you know, rear axle of the pickup and what have you. And so FASS does make a fuel sump that's actually a really good quality. We've installed a couple of them, and I really quite like them. But it wasn't what I wanted to do for this application here. And the FASS fuel sump has what's the word I'm looking for that? It's just like it's a sump that attaches to the bottom of the tank, but there's no like screen over it or anything like that. So if you were to get a large object inside the fuel tank, the fuel inlet is just a hole. It's nothing else. And if you know, I don't know, put a fucking ping pong ball or something in the fuel tank, you could actually block the fuel flow. This here, could have tried to do something better here for all this, but kind of just doing this on the fly here. So this part here is a 2-inch weld-in bung or phoenix flange or whatever the fuck you want to call it in the bottom of my fuel tank. And so this piece here is the center line of the body that's on the bed. And so this here is driver's side, that there is passenger side. So this part here is a 2-inch weld-in bung, and then this here is a hydraulic tank strainer. And you can get a couple different types of tank strainers, some that have relief valves on them and everything. This one does not have a relief valve. If I remember right, I think it's a 200 micron screen, so it's a pretty fine screen. And just like Google, hydraulic tank strainer, and you'll see exactly what this is. But threads into a 2-inch port, and it's about 8 inches tall or something like that of wire mesh all the way around. And so that way there's not like a flat surface on the bottom of the tank to where, like I said, if something large like, your buddy's being a jackass or something and throws a ping pong ball on your pickup or something, then there's no way that something like that, or God, I should just pull this out one day and kind of show you what I'm talking about more. But suffice to say, this is a hydraulic tank screen, and like I said, just Google it, inside the fuel tank to catch the big kibbles and bits, and also to make sure that a large chunk of debris cannot block off the fuel flow from inside the tank. Because, of course, as you can see, this is on the bottom of the tank, so in order to take this out, you have to drain the entire fuel tank, which is not something you're doing on the side of the road. So tank strainer, and then I've got just a bushing here, and then a 1/2-inch brass ball valve from a hydraulic shop. So it's a good quality ball valve, because again, this is the bottom of the tank. So if the rubber hose were to, if I can get this in the fucking shot, if the rubber hose were to tear or something like that, get ripped out by, a branch or whatever the fuck that you're driving over, it would dump the entire fuel tank. And so this way I can shut it off, and also just for changing the fuel filters. Because as you can see, we'll go that way. So for one, that's the drive line, that's the carrier bearing right there, and all this shit is above that. So yes, I do have this stuff kind of, sort of exposed underneath the truck, but it's also up pretty high. And, while I will take this down a logging road or a Jeep trailer or something like that, it's not like I'm, going rock crawling with it or whatever. But so yeah, there's the hose, runs up to the tank strainer, and then the FASS pump here. And as you can see, I got the Baldwin filters on it. And so what I really like about this is that this is all gravity feed. It doesn't have to, draw fuel up at all, which makes it really great for, priming the filters and all that kind of stuff. Most of the time, all I have to do is shut off the valve up there, change the filters, and turn the valve back on, and away she goes. And then if we were to look here, this is where this is the hole I cut in the bed to get the fuel lines and shit, and the electric for the fill-rate pump up through the service body. And I just call this spiral wrap. Get that from the hydraulic shop. But yeah, so that's that. That is how I have the FASS pump set up on my Dodge here. My Ford is basically identical. The tank is slightly different, and like the fuel tank is slightly different, and the FASS pump is mounted on the other frame rail, just because it, like the passenger frame rail, where on my Dodge here it's on the driver's side frame rail, just because that is what was most convenient. But before I did this, I did actually call FASS, and FASS has been, the couple times that I've called them, they've answered the phone right away, been very knowledgeable and helpful and everything. And before I did this, I called FASS and talked to them and explained what I was doing, and they said that there was no worries with this, just because I wanted to make sure with the manufacturer before I did that. They said everything's cool, knock yourself out. Last thing I suppose I'll say, so all of my spin-on filters, fast pump included, is 1x14 filter thread, so like 1 inch diameter thread by 14 threads per inch, which is really cool because that is like the most common fuel filter, or at least used to be, in the like in heavy truck and equipment world. Nowadays they're going to a bunch of proprietary bullshit, but you can damn near buy 1x14 filters at 7-Eleven. Damn near buy the filters at 7-Eleven. They're very, very common. And so, of course, this is identical to the one that's on my pickup. This is the secondary filter here, the 2 micron one, I believe it is, on the fast pumps. And you can just take it off and stick it onto that port right there. And then the same exact thing with this filter. Cat filters, I've heard, are made in a Baldwin facility, but again, that doesn't mean that they are identical to Baldwin filters. And most people will agree that cat filters are some of the best filters that you can get out there. They are actually different internally and everything. But anyways, this one is 1x14, same as the fast pump, same as everything else I have, and so that's really cool. I like the fact that everything stays the same and you can interchange shit and what have you, and just makes life easy that way. So I guess any questions on this fuel tank setup here, feel free to ask and whatever, and if you want to see something more specific, let me know.